If you've ever tried to eat healthier, and your cravings actually got worse, I thought I was doing everything right too. For a long time, I believed that if I just ate cleaner, my cravings would go away. I focused on whole foods. I avoided anything that felt too indulgent. I tried to keep my meals light and controlled. And at first, it felt like I was on the right track. But over time, something started to feel off. Instead of cravings getting easier, they started getting stronger. I was thinking about food more often, not less. And it wasn't just occasional. It felt like this constant background noise. Like no matter what I ate, something still felt unsatisfied. And that's the part that didn't make sense. Because from the outside, everything looked healthy. If you've ever felt like that, like you're putting in effort, making better choices, but it's somehow getting harder instead of easier, this might be why. Because the mistake I was making was trying to control cravings by eating cleaner. Not eating more. Not eating less. Just choosing foods that felt healthier. And what I didn't realize at the time was that this can actually backfire. Before we go further, here's something most people don't realize. Cravings are not just about willpower. They're often a signal. A signal that your body isn't fully supported. And when your body isn't getting what it needs, it doesn't just stay quiet. It pushes back. And sometimes, that pushback shows up as stronger cravings. Before I explain this deeper, think about this for a second. Have your cravings actually gotten worse the more you've tried to eat clean? Because that is exactly what happened to me. And for a while, I could not understand why. I thought eating cleaner would make things feel calmer, more controlled, more stable. Instead, I felt more preoccupied, more aware of food, more likely to feel like I needed something after meals. For me, this looked like trying to eat clean meals that didn't actually feel satisfying. Meals that were lower in fat, sometimes lower in protein, and often lighter than what my body needed. And after eating, instead of feeling settled, I still felt like I needed something. Not because I was out of control, but because something was missing. And that's a really important distinction. Because when something is missing, your body doesn't just ignore it. It keeps asking, again and again. And that's when it starts to feel like cravings are the problem. But often, cravings are just the messenger. And the message is simple: something isn't fully supported. To make this more real, think about how this often plays out in a normal day. Breakfast is something small. Maybe yogurt that looks healthy but isn't very satisfying. Or fruit. Or toast. Or just coffee because you're busy. Then lunch is another meal that feels light and controlled. Maybe a salad. Maybe something quick. Maybe something that looks healthy on paper, but still doesn't leave you feeling fully done. And then by later in the day, you start thinking about food more. You want something crunchy, something sweet, something more substantial. And it feels confusing because you already ate. That confusion is what keeps so many women stuck. Because it looks like the issue is cravings. But very often, the real issue is that your meals aren't actually meeting your body's needs. And when meals don't feel complete, your body keeps looking for completion. That's why trying to white-knuckle your way through cravings usually doesn't work very long. Because you're trying to silence a signal, without addressing why it's there. And this is where the cycle starts. You try to stay disciplined. Tell yourself you already ate. Try to ignore the feeling. But the signal doesn't go away. It builds. And over time, it gets louder. Until eventually, it feels harder to stay in control. And then the assumption becomes, I just need more discipline. I just need to stop thinking about food. I just need to try harder. But for me, it wasn't discipline. It was structure. It was support. And once I started shifting that, everything began to change. Instead of trying to eat cleaner, I started focusing on eating in a way that actually supported me. Not perfectly. Not rigidly. Just more intentionally. That meant including meals that actually felt complete. Meals that had enough protein, enough fat, and enough substance to feel satisfying. And that shift sounds simple, but it changed the entire experience. Because instead of finishing a meal and still thinking about food, I started finishing meals and feeling done. And that is a very different feeling. Before, meals felt like something I had to manage. After, meals felt like something that actually supported me. Before, I was thinking about food constantly. After, it felt quieter. Before, energy felt up and down. After, it felt more steady. And I think this is such an important part of the conversation. Because a lot of women don't realize how much mental energy gets used when food feels complicated all the time. When you're always trying to be good. Always trying to stay in control. Always wondering why you're still unsatisfied. That creates stress around food. And that stress can make everything feel harder. So when meals actually start to satisfy you, it's not just physical relief. It's mental relief too. Things get quieter. You don't feel as pulled toward food all day. And that's when it starts to feel like you can trust your body more again. This is where things really started to click. Because when your body is supported, it doesn't need to push as hard. It doesn't need to keep asking. And that's what cravings often are. Your body asking for something it didn't get. Now this doesn't mean cravings are bad. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy food. But it does mean that if cravings feel intense or constant, there might be something missing. And often, it's not about eating less. It's about eating in a way that actually works with your body. And this is where a lot of women get stuck. Because when cravings increase, the instinct is to restrict more. Eat lighter. Cut things out. Try to be better. But that often makes the problem worse. Because the body doesn't respond well to being undersupported. It responds by pushing back harder. And that's when it starts to feel like a cycle. Trying to do the right thing, but not getting the result you expected. And I think this is the part that matters most. Because a lot of women assume they lack discipline. But very often, they just need more support. And once that shift happens, everything starts to feel easier. Food feels less controlling. Cravings feel more manageable. Energy feels more stable. And your body starts to feel more predictable again. Not because you're trying harder, but because you're finally working with it. And if you've been feeling like you're doing everything right, but something still feels off, this might be one of the pieces to look at. Because eating healthy is important. But eating in a way that actually supports your body is what changes how you feel.